So welcome to Spiritual Friends Sangha at the San Francisco Dharma Collective. We're going to begin with about 25-30 minutes of just being together quietly, resting into community, feeling the power of being together. It's a rare gift. Attuning to ourselves and our environment. Cultivating awareness, interest, curiosity, as we rest into what's present in us. Perhaps we become aware of the body resting here, this precious gift we can give ourselves of simply being, no need to do anything. Taking care to place the body in a comfortable position, whether that's sitting, standing, or lying down. You might even walk, attuning to yourself, finding your own inner guide, your own inner wisdom. Resting and receiving. And noticing our relationship to the arising and passing experiences. The habits of this heart mind to chase after and push away. No problem. We notice it. Our awareness is enough. If it's coupled with kindness, gentleness, interest, no need to do anything. We get to simply be. Mind, body, and speech in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of this bell. May all who hear awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. resting, receiving, relating. Finding the balance between or combination of relaxation and interest. Life keeps unfolding. How are we with this moment's reality? Chasing after, trying to make it better, experiencing greed, pushing away, resisting, avoiding, experiencing aversion. We're kind of checked out, not knowing, experiencing delusion. We can notice this, and then we notice our relationship to that. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I'm feeling scared or anxious or depressed. Hi there. This is simply this moment's arising and passing. And slowly but surely, our capacity to meet what is increases, it grows of its own accord. With practice, with time in. Resting, receiving, and then noticing our relationship. Continuing to rest in the cultivation of awareness and presence, receiving some words I'm going to offer, and noticing your relationship to them, how they move the heart, how the body responds. And I'll offer these words at such a pace that there'll be space for you to repeat them silently to yourself to see if that helps a receiving of them. The first is from Thich Nhat Hanh, the first set. The second is a combination of stuff from Plum Village and from various Theravada lineages. The translation I have is from Abhayagiri, which is really from Amravati, so Ajahn Chah. And then the third is from the Dhammapada, and it's a mashup of translations from Ajahn Jeff and Bhante Gunaratna and Gil Fronsdale. And then the pronoun choices are mine. Repeating silently to yourself if that feels supportive, resting, receiving, noticing our relationship. Waking up, we smile. 24 brand new hours are before us. We vow to live fully in each moment. And look at all beings, including ourselves, with eyes of compassion. We are of the nature to age. We have not gone beyond aging. We are of the nature to have ill health. We have not gone beyond sickness. We are of the nature to die. We cannot escape death. Everyone we love and all we hold dear is of the nature to change. We cannot escape being separated from them. Our actions are our only true belongings. Our actions are our only true belongings. They are the ground on which we stand. We cannot escape the consequences of our actions. If we act for good or for ill, of those results, we will be the heirs. If we act for good or for ill, of those results, we will be the heirs. All experience is led by heart-mind, born of heart-mind, made of heart-mind. all experience is preceded by heart mind. Mind is the forerunner of all experience. Act or speak from a defiled state of mind, tarnished, soiled, dirty, contracted state of heart mind, and suffering follows as the cartwheel follows the hoof of the ox, or as the stroke of the pedal follows the wheel of the bicycle, or the wheel of the bicycle follows the stroke of the pedal. All experience is led by heart mind, born of heart mind, made of heart mind. All experience is proceeded by heart mind. Mind is the forerunner of all experience. Act or speak with a pure state of heart mind, and happiness follows as your shadow follows you without departing. Act or speak with a pure state of heart mind, and happiness follows as your shadow follows you without departing. Allowing the field of awareness to broaden into movement, listening into your own heart, mind, body, discerning how it might want to move, what would be most supportive. Big movements, small movements. Maybe some twists, maybe you want to get up, maybe folding over. Maybe the body wants the bathroom or some water. We're going to get some music now. So we have our song leader and guest with us again this evening. Thank you. And I thought we would go around and introduce ourselves and then enjoy being led. So I'm Augusta, she, her.
I'm Kele, he, him. Yeah, shall we do the ancestor song to start? Calling all our ancestors, spiritual land and blood. Now you.
Calling all our ancestors, spiritual land and blood.
In all the many directions of our lineage.
In all the many directions of our lineage.
We offer this practice to you in gratitude.
We offer this practice to you in
Gratitude.
gratitude.
Yes, so that's gonna be how it goes. We'll just do that over and over again. Here we go. And it's up there, so good. I don't have to. Okay, and we'll just do that over and over again. 1, 2, ready, go. Calling all our ancestors, spiritual land and blood. in all the many directions of our lineage. We offer this practice to you in gratitude, calling all our ancestors, spiritual and blood, in all the many directions of our lineage. We offer this practice to you in gratitude. We offer this practice to you in gratitude, calling all our ancestors, spiritual and blood, in all the many directions of our lineage. We offer this practice to you in gratitude. We offer this practice to you in gratitude, calling all our ancestors, spiritual and blood, in all the many directions of our lineage. We offer this practice to you in gratitude. We offer this practice to you in gratitude, calling all our ancestors, spiritual and blood, in all the many directions of our lineage. We offer this practice to you in gratitude. We offer this practice to you in gratitude. Yay.
Noticing how it feels, right? Cultivating this embodied awareness of whatever we're doing. We spend time, quote unquote, on the cushion so that we can be aware and present in our lives. Notice how it feels to be just guided, to have just been guided in song. What's the residue? Noticing. And noticing how it feels as we move on.
Ooh, nice. Resting, resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world. Resting, resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world. Resting, resting deeply, I return to my life, return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world. Resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world. Resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world. Resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds of the world.
Thank you, Kele. Noticing what's alive in your heart, what's alive in your mind. What's the residue from having been guided in song, having sung together? How's it feel in there? It's such a gift to be able to be together, to really be here in our hearts and our bodies. I don't know what's happening where you are. I know we're not all in the Bay Area, we're not all in San Francisco. The unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land colonizes San Francisco, referred to as San Francisco mostly these days. And here in the Bay, just a few days ago, we received a big threat, a big physical threat by our government and agents of the government to come here and wreak havoc. And in singing the song together, with Kele, I feel like the whole Wild Choir was here with us. And Wild Choir is an amazing collection of musicians, mostly vocalists, who have been going to rallies and marches and gatherings to uplift our spirits as we navigate life and all of the pain of life. I've been hearing myself say a lot lately, you don't get out of this alive, right? Like that's where we're headed, all of us at some point. And while we're alive, it's hard. That's why we have this first noble truth of dukkha. It's like, yeah, it's hard. It's not a mistake. It's hard. You didn't do something wrong. It's hard. It's hard. And when I can touch that truth and own that truth, remember that truth, recognize that truth, I feel a little bit of freedom. Because without that remembering, I can get caught and think that I've done something wrong and that's why I'm having a hard time. That's why I'm sad, or that's why I'm angry, or as many of you know, anxiety and depression are at an all-time high. I think in the globe, I don't think it's limited to the US, all-time high. Let's enjoy those bells. Thank you, church. I know the bells don't come through over on Zoom, but here at the Dharma Collective, we have the great gift of having a church. So we are adjacent to a church, and so we get to hear the bells chime on the hour. And my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, although he's Vietnamese, he was exiled from Vietnam for speaking out against the war, speaking out against violence, and coming to the aid of everyone who was suffering without regard to whether it was the North or the South. He reminds us to come home to ourselves, that that's the way to navigate the various challenges of life, is to come home to ourselves. And he uses bells, and he teaches us to use bells, to use whatever might be a bell of mindfulness. And specifically in his time in living in Europe, he lived in Europe for a long time, I guess from 1968 until 2015. Yeah, he lived there for a long time. And he taught his students to have the church bells be a support for the cultivation of presence and awareness. Use what's in your environment. So I feel like for me as a city girl in the US, it's like those sirens. When a cop car goes by or an ambulance goes by, I allow those sirens to call me home to myself as a reminder to rest into the present moment. And I find it a great resource. So I'm always very happy to get to hear them when I'm here at the collective as a invitation and as a reminder. So I'm always really glad when I'm the one that's talking, so I can just interrupt myself rather than someone else, struggling around it. But yeah, so thank you, bells. And as we come home to ourselves, as we rest in, as that beautiful song reminds us, resting deeply, I return my life to the one who listens deeply to the sounds, my mind is often saying cries, to the sounds of the world. So that's homage to Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of great listening. And if we listen, we hear some shit. It's not all roses and butterflies. Like, that's not how it goes. And as we cultivate our capacity to listen, we can bear with the suffering, our own suffering and the collective suffering. And this is a time of suffering. It's rough. It's rough. And if we wallow in the despair of it or we hide out from it, it doesn't work. And as our own capacity grows, then we can either take care of ourselves because that's what we need, or we can show up because that's what the world needs. And we need both. You know, one of my favorite calligraphies from Tides is my own writing of it. So it's not as beautiful as his calligraphy, but peace in oneself, peace in the world. I believe that so deeply, and I see it in myself. Many, many years into practice, I still found there wasn't a lot of peace. And I would come into an interaction with my partner, and he would do something that I didn't prefer, and I would lose it, just lose it. And because there wasn't peace in myself, I was creating non-peace in my world, in my apartment. Ooh. And now he does something that I don't love. Whatever. It's amazing. And it's just because I kept putting the time in. It's not because I'm like some realized being. It's because I just kept putting the time in. And you can have that peace and freedom too. And I really invite that for you now so that you can navigate this gunk, this dukkha, this mess. And I have some things I want to read. So I'm often referencing Thich Nhat Hanh and Sayadaw U Tejaniya and Ajahn Chah, because I've studied with them directly and with their students directly. Ajahn Chah I never met. He was not alive when I came into practice. And Sayadaw U Tejaniya I have not met either, but direct students of his I've practiced with quite a bit. But they're not the only teachers worthy of veneration. So these words from Vimalakirti. In times of war, he teaches kindliness and pity to convert living beings so that they can live in peace. When enemies line up for battle, he gives equal strength to both. With his authority and power, he forces them to be reconciled and live in harmony. From Buddha himself, from the Dhammapada. This is one translation. Conquer anger by love. Conquer evil by good. Conquer the stingy by giving. Conquer the liar by truth. And this from from Augusta, who was a Cambodian monk who brought a lot of peace to suffering from the Khmer Rouge. If I am unable to endure even the mere sufferings of the present, then why do I not restrain myself from being angry, which will be the source of hellish misery? In fact, an enemy should be looked on as like a beautiful treasure, for an enemy gives one a good opportunity for practicing patience and should be venerated accordingly. Having thus practiced patience in the face of provocation, one should share the spiritual fruits of this patience with those who attack one. That's from Buddhaghosa, who is on the cover of this book, An Introduction to Buddhist Ethics. I offer those words in the hope that they might remind you that this is a broadly understood idea, not just something illuminated by Tay, but there's another quote that comes to mind from the Buddha that gets translated slightly different ways. When I was reading today, it used the word hot stick. When I first learned it from Pema Chodron, it was a hot coal. But anger is like picking up a hot coal or a burning stick and throwing at someone. You're definitely getting burned. You might miss them. There was another way it was translated today about throwing dust into the wind, right? It's definitely going to get into your face. And this is how hatred is. This is how anger is. We get burned ourselves when we feel that. I know you know it. I know you know the heat of anger. It's not the way. It's not the way. And when we're able to recognize the anger in ourselves and tend to the anger in ourselves, a more skillful means of response to the atrocities can emerge. And we can do something that's actually useful and forward-leading. Just like wildfire, right? Wildfire shows up with love and joy and light and song and allows that song to lift up the resonance of the hearts of people who are, doing what we can to speak truth to power. And we have to resource ourselves so that we can do that. And for me, that resting deeply, that is the way. It is the only way that I actually resource myself. Like, I need to eat and hang out with friends and exercise. And if I'm not getting the resting part in, doesn't matter how much other stuff I'm doing. There's no resource. There's no resource. And when we're giving from our I don't have access to the word at the moment, but we want to give from our abundance, not from our reserves. When we give from our reserves, it gets real messy real fast. There's nothing there. We don't get to avoid hardship, as it says in those 5 remembrances that I offered tonight and I offered last week. It's the nature of life. So how do we care for ourselves so that we can show up for ourselves and show up for the world? So that's very much on this heart mind in this October 2025 on Monday night after a Thursday morning arrival of ice in Alameda at the Coast Guard station. And I have so much gratitude to the many people who showed up there in Alameda, the people of faith, the people of no faith, the people who had the energy to hold it down and send the message, and that beautiful priest that endured tear gas right in his face. Whew! The gall to treat another human being that way. And they showed up and they persevered and they sang. And ICE is still taking people away as they go in for their immigration hearings. They haven't like stopped their maldeeds. And we're not in a civil war yet, so that's great. It's great. And so we can appreciate that victory. And maybe some of you had the opportunity to go down to the Embarcadero at 5 o'clock as the call is. If we get a, whatever, ICE landing, whatever the language is there, 5 o'clock at the Embarcadero, and thousands of people showed up. And the Liberation Brass Band showed up, and people of various different faiths and cultures and ages. It was so uplifting to feel community, Sangha, coming together in the face of adversity to support one another, to lift up and say, we are here. We are here. We're not afraid of you. Yeah. So however you're feeling, know that we got you, know that we got you. Yeah, so those are some of the things on my heart, mind in this eve of all of that. And it's the end of October. It's the harvest time, and the veil is thinning. The veil between the worlds of the living and the so-called dead is thinning, thinning, thinning. It's my understanding that it's at its thinnest point, 30th, 1st, 2nd, different cultures hold it slightly differently, but like that's the moment, or not 30th, 31st, 1st, 2nd, excuse me. And that understanding is ancient. It probably shows up in more cultures that I know of, but it certainly is an Aztec understanding, and it is a Celtic understanding, and the Aztecs and the Celts, they lived far away from one another. Land currently known as Ireland and known as Mexico, they're not next door. And there was this knowing, this felt experience of the thinness of the veil between the living and the so-called dead. And I've touched it, I've tuned into that, and it's been amazing. So I don't know that, we'll see if we got to spending time with that specifically this evening, but I want to lift up a knowing of that and a knowing of the breadth of that understanding. And an invitation to touch into that these next few days, to access your loved ones of spirit, land, and blood. That's why we enjoyed that beautiful song, Calling in the Ancestors. Calling all our ancestors, spiritual land and blood, in all the many directions of our lineage. Many directions, spiritual, land, and blood. We have these various ancestors. Some of us know our blood ancestors. Some of us do not know our blood ancestors. If we're developing a spiritual path, we're coming to know our spiritual ancestors. And maybe we have a spiritual tradition that we grew up in or we touched at earlier stages of our life. We lean on that. We call on those ancestors, the elders, living and not living. We call on them. We touch them. We allow ourselves to be resourced by them. We're not alone. I know it feels like it sometimes. Believe you me. And we're not. We're not alone. We can rest into that and call on that. Even if it's Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, or Manjushri, yielding the sword of wisdom. Like we can call on our spiritual ancestors. The great, late Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King. We can call on our spiritual ancestors. And then the land ancestors. Just a few weeks ago, we honored the native peoples of this land. They're here. They didn't go anywhere. persecuted and erased and all that nonsense, and they're still here. And we're alive, so we are of the earth. We are walking on the earth. The only planet that we'll ever call home in our lives. This is the one that has the conditions such that we have been adapted to live, to breathe, to harvest food, to eat. And we can rest into that, be supported by that, touch it, right? Thich Nhat Hanh talks about touching the earth. So then we walk, we feel her, we feel Mother Earth supporting us. And may that inspire us to protect her and care for her, right? That was another piece of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, is the protecting of the earth. We offered our support to the Apache people whose sacred land is continuing to be threatened to be taken away for copper mining. Like, come on. They don't need that. The earth doesn't need that. Whew, we need to quell our insatiable more. All right, getting off the soapbox. So if you live in the Bay or another part of the United States that has a strong Mexican presence, or you have spent time in Mexico, you've seen the beauty of the marigolds as we celebrate Day of the Dead. And if you spent time in Thailand or at Thai monasteries, you've also seen how the marigolds are an important part of spiritual practice. I remember celebrating Ajahn Chah's birthday. It was all about the marigolds. We made garlands and garlands of marigolds. Get them in your hands, the smell of them. And we have marigolds here in this space. I don't know if you have marigolds with you at home, but you could get some mint or some basil or another flower. Maybe there's something in your space that has a fragrance that you can practice with. I'll take a break in a little while to go give you space and time to do that if you wish. And right now I want to talk about marigolds a little bit. In knowing the sacredness of marigolds for this holiday of Dia de los Muertos, and knowing the sacredness of them in Thailand for honoring past ones and paying homage, I looked them up this morning. I was like, all right, what's up with marigolds? And I also learned that maybe the name marigold, as we call it, came from the Virgin Mary, and people, Christians, who are going to venerate her and pay homage, who did not have gold coin to give, would offer marigolds. And it's like, what? Like, how many traditions can be showing up here? It's amazing, and we forget. And then, of course, all these wars and all this killing from time immemorial is because of this idea of division and difference between things. And you think about the Crusades and just like mess. And when you look in it, it's my understanding, as I have explored, love is at the core of all of them. And then greed, aversion, delusion get in there, and then there's misguided behavior, because we're humans. We're not arahants. We're not enlightened beings. We're run-of-the-mill humans. And those of us who are gathered here this evening, and many other people across the world, are interested in awakening from some of that gunk and, cleaning it up a little bit and practicing the 5 precepts, which we will recite again next week, as we do each month at the first Monday of the month. To not kill, to not steal, to not engage in inappropriate sexual behavior, to not lie, and to not consume intoxicants or substances which cloud the mind. Could you imagine if our leaders were following the precepts? What a different world we would be in. What a different world. And they're humans. caught, confused, suffering beings. So if you have a practice of metta, everybody needs it. No discrimination, no discrimination. Yeah, so let's take a little break. If you're at home and you want to play along for our eating meditation, which is going to be a smelling meditation, go grab something fragrant that you like. Maybe there's some mint you can harvest. You've got mint in the fridge or some basil. It's still kind of the end of summer here in San Francisco. Maybe you're in Hawaii and there's some other beautiful fragrant flower you can go and get or just bring into your mind. Or maybe there's a piece of fruit or something in your home that you can bust open and enjoy the fragrance of. So take a couple minutes so that we can all engage in the practice of smelling, awareness while smelling, or smelling meditation, resuming in a couple minutes. All right, here we are back in action. So Zoomland, I'd love to see what you got for your fragrance practice. You can open your mic and tell us ooh, a beautiful pink rose. Julie, you open your mic and tell us. You don't need to hear me.
It's just a wild rose, but I noticed after the rain today they smelled so nice, so I grabbed one.
Wonderful. What'd you got, Kele?
I have this like it's called is eucalyptus and mint.
Lovely, invigorating, and refreshing.
Mhm.
Nice, nice, nice. Akasha, did you get a something?
Can you hear me?
When you're close to the mic.
I have this star fruit.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is it fragrant or do you need to open it to smell it?
So fragrant.
I love it. That's so cool. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Great. Invite you to get a blossom or two. And oh, even better. Maybe he'll grab one for me too. So looking at your star fruit, your bottle of tincture, your wild rose, just pull it out. No? They're connected to each other? Oh. Oh. So nice. Ha ha! Thank you. Mm. The way me and Jimmy are both saying how beautiful, really good.
They smell great.
What comes to mind for me is the distinct smell, right? Each thing we have, whether it's eucalyptus and mint going onto our temples and our wrists, or it's a wild pink rose or starfruit or a marigold, it has a distinct scent. And we need all the scents. You know what I mean? I don't want a rose to smell like a marigold. I don't want a marigold to smell like mint. We're so fortunate to have these olfactory senses that can distinguish these different things. And this amazing planet that's created all of this diversity. Biodiversity is where it's at, right? Like that's how you have a healthy ecosystem. I hope you're following my metaphor. And as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, we need all of the conditions. This is because that is. I don't know all of the different conditions that lead to that star fruit, but I do know that that star fruit is not growing in San Francisco. It's growing in the climate of Kauai. I think that's where you are. Yeah, it's growing in that distinct climate, one of the wettest places on the planet. And it's not too cold, it's not too hot. It's just right for that beautiful, beautiful piece of fruit. And I think about mint. Maybe one of you knows the word. There's some special word that I sometimes use the word rhizome, which I do not think is the right word, but mint is a plant that when it goes, as it's growing underground, it grows out. So it's very connected. It goes wide. It doesn't go deep, it goes wide. And then it spreads. And I think about that in this moment of the resourcing that's possible when we go wide, when we go broad. So many different segments of the population in the United States of America have been adversely impacted by things that the current administration is doing. It's really broad. It's really broad. And I was thinking quite a bit over the weekend that as we come together to rally for the community who's currently being persecuted, if the different communities come together to support the different communities, like, yes, some of you are familiar with a teaching that I'm sure is from the Buddha. I know it from Thich Nhat Hanh, specifically of no mud, no lotus. And if you've ever had the chance to see a lotus growing, the first lotus I saw was cut. It was a bud. It was in Thailand, cut piles and piles of them outside of the monasteries to come and bring into the monastics. And then I got to see them growing in Plum Village. They're so beautiful. So many petals. And the leaves are these big, oh, actually, never mind about the leaves. There are also lilies. I think I might have mushed them all together. The point is that the lotus, the beautiful lotus, cannot grow on marble. It cannot grow in a pristine environment. It specifically flourishes in the mud and the gunk. And a lotus seed can lay dormant for 1,000 years. Once a frog or a lizard or whatever creatures are there in the pond ingest it, and it goes through their digestive tract and they comes back out again, they shit it out. That's when it germinates. It gets split open and it germinates, and then it gets down into the mud, and then you get the beautiful lotus. So, as messed up as we might be in a moment, no, hope is not lost, right? It can happen anytime when the conditions are sufficient. And I guess I keep having hope. I had a lot of hope when George Floyd was murdered that could bring about some change. And it felt like it did for a short time. And I do continue to feel, I'm able to touch that hope also, that this can help us in diverse communities support one another. In San Francisco specifically, I find myself thinking about the Castro and the Mission, and if an alliance is born there, it's born from need and from shared suffering, which is the human experience, right? Some friends of mine got married recently. They've been together for a really long time. They're like, we got to get married before he takes away the possibility of us getting married. It's like, it's so awful. And there's the beautiful lotuses. They got married. They had a gorgeous wedding. Okay, enough. So smell your thing. Your fruit, your flower, your tincture. Let your eyes close. Let yourself really take it in. Feel the preciousness of your capacity to smell and the conditions that allow this object to be smelled in its particular way. You know, its suchness, its roseness, its starfruitness, its mintness, its eucalyptusness, its marigoldness, its suchness, its pure essence. And let your suchness, let your pure essence, your Noemi-ness, your Jimmy-ness, your Akasha-ness, your Kele-ness, your Julie-ness, your Augusta-ness, let your suchness meet the fragrance. Enjoy some full breaths to really bring it in. Kele, maybe you're really getting your nasal cavities cleared out. Hmm. And maybe that olfactory experience brings back memories. Maybe not. It's said that the olfactory sense is very deeply connected to memories. I'm noticing for this mind, I'm thinking of the smell of roses and how much I love the smell of roses. Seeing Julie's beautiful wild pink rose. And as I really take in the marigold, I'm transported back to a Bayagiri monastery and the celebration of Ajahn Chah. I can see everyone I was there with, making garlands. What's happening for you? Now let's bring in the Brahmaviharas as we do with the eating practice. Repeating to yourself silently. With this first smell, I practice the love that brings joy, cultivating mudita. Or maybe repeating to yourself, with this first smell, this first sniff, I practice the love that brings joy. And marinate in that for a little. Let yourself feel joy. With this second sniff, I practice the love that relieves suffering. Karuna. With this second sniff, we practice the love that relieves suffering. Karuna. With this third sniff, we practice the love of ourselves. Metta. When we practice metta, we begin with ourselves. With this third sniff, we practice the love of ourselves. Metta. And with this fourth sniff, we practice the love of all beings. Upekkha, upeksha. With this fourth sniff, we practice the love of all beings. Upekkha, upeksha. Thich Nhat Hanh translated upekkha or upeksha as inclusivity. I've been thinking about that lately, and the word welcoming arose in my heart as a kind of action that we could take, a behavior, a heart state, a mind state, welcoming. If I think about those four Brahma Viharas in action, the common order is metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Time moves them around, or maybe they're moved around earlier in Vietnamese culture. I haven't done that research yet. But metta is love, so we can be loving. We can practice being loving to ourselves and others. Karuna, we can practice being kind, practice kindness, the act of loving, the act of kindness. And then mudita, we can cultivate joy in the very midst of suffering and confusion. In the very midst of despair and dismay, we can cultivate joy. What a radical act. I'm riding around on my bicycle, it's like pink ribbons flowing from my helmet. I've got bubbles and making sounds. And then I'm sitting. I went to that rally. I think it was Thursday. I don't even know what day it was. And I just sat and meditated at the Embarcadero. I had all my browns on just like this. I brought a yoga mat and a zafu, and I just sat there cross-legged and meditated. And I was like, this is the best gift that I can give to this moment, is my peaceful presence. Yeah, so that's my aspiration. Metta, acts of love. Karuna, acts of kindness. Mudita, the cultivation of joy. And upekkha, practicing inclusiveness, belonging, welcoming of all the parts inside of ourselves, welcoming of various perspectives. Can we actually listen? We're all just suffering. All the behavior, skillful, unskillful, mostly unskillful, comes from suffering. But when it's met, then skillful behavior can emerge. And I find that listening, internally and externally, listening is how it's met. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for your kind attention. I hope something I said was useful. Hope the practice was beneficial for you and it might be beneficial for others. We'll do a formal close of offering the merit, and then we'll have time to share once we turn the recording off. So, preparing your body to stand. And with this bell, we can stand. And with this next bell, we can bow to each other through Zoom land and here in the space. In gratitude to Sangha. And then we can turn around 180 and give voice to anyone. Open up your mics on Zoom if you want. And in the space, pick up the mic if you want and give voice to anyone with whom you'd like to share the merit of our practice this evening. I feel myself inspired to share some of the merit of our practice with the ICE agents and with the Coast Guard. May they have some freedom from suffering. And through that freedom, may they be inspired toward wholesome actions. And for me, always Peggy and Larry and Nate and Annette. Anybody else? Any names? Any groups of people? All the immigrants, everyone going to immigration hearings, being kidnapped, being deported. All people everywhere. Yeah. May the fruits of our practice, you can repeat after me if you like. May the fruits of our practice be of benefit to all beings and bring peace and liberation to all. Thanks everyone for your practice. How you doing? What's alive? We have like 5 minutes.